Welcome to our Chronic Health Collective. Your fresh start begins here. We've gathered powerful coaches and experts to help you reclaim your energy, heal from the inside out, and step into a life that feels vibrant, aligned, and deeply fulfilling. If you're ready for a better life, stronger relationships, and more purpose, you're in the right spot. My name is Jessica Hammock, and I am your trauma recovery and transformation coach. And today I'm super excited. Our focus this month for the month of July is really about energy, strength, vitality, all the pieces of our life that feed into those things. And I was really intentional to think about like, who can I bring along with me in this journey to kind of have that conversation? And I want you to meet a very dear friend of mine, Heather Lundewar. And I love her tagline, married and starving, but she is really one of those taboo subjects we're going to talk about is sex and relationships. So welcome, Heather. We're so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be invited on.
Yeah. So here's the thing I want to talk about, and we're going to go through some questions and things like that. But the reality is what the work that I do so much with trauma recovery and transformation, and the conversations people don't want to have, and the conversations I know that you're having, is about a subject that in a lot of communities is very taboo. And I think that people don't realize how much trauma is sustained from some of those things. And I've loved hearing the conversations and the perspective that you bring to things. And, I know that you've had your own health journey and all these things. And there's this tagline out there that I've heard several people use. And I think you've even said it something to the effect of like, okay, hey, by the way, we're going to talk about some sensitive topics. So if you have family around or little ears around, you might want to put some headphones on just in case. I just want to preface this. We're not going to be like, super grungy, but also at the same time, you need to be mindful. Some people don't want everybody hearing this conversation. But one of the taglines that I've heard people use a lot is like, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. And a lot of people poo-poo on that. But then there's this idea of what you talk about, and you've set yourself up to create something called the Great Sex Reset. So tell me a little bit about what led you to sort of build that and that perspective you bring to the table.
So, how far back do you want me to go?
As much as you feel like is appropriate for the audience, it's yours, girl. Like, how far back did it start for you? You know?
Okay. I really want to go back to the age of 10, where I had what I feel like was a very unusual experience, a very singular experience. My dad sat my brother and me down and just gave us like the 10,000 foot overview of what married people do behind closed doors. And I found out much later that other people were either not given any discussion, or they were taught what I feel like is terrible things, like it's dirty or it's bad.
Mhm.
My dad literally said to me and my brother that sex in marriage was a beautiful gift that God gave us. And that just put me on a different path than what it took me a long time to realize other women weren't on the same path as me. Um, so fast forward, I got married at the age of 22. My husband was in the military. We lived overseas, and we were very active. And I grew up in a Judeo-Christian home. My dad's actually a preacher. My father-in-law also was a preacher. But anyway, I'm a brand new wife in Okinawa, Japan, and I'm 23 years old, and there were older women around me, and I got some really good advice there, and also just some shocking just revelations of what other people were experiencing. The one woman I remember her very clearly. I was 23, she was 41. She was pregnant with her fifth or sixth child. And she said at one of our ladies' nights, she said, well, I taught, all of her other kids were daughters, and one of them was grown and married already. I taught all of my daughters that sex is a dirty word.
Mm. Yeah.
And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for your sons-in-law, your future sons-in-law. And then the immediate follow-on thought was, but I really feel sorry for your daughters. Why are you reading a different Bible than what I'm reading? Because the Song of Solomon is just pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in
It's
there,
pretty
right?
lit.
It's in there. It's in there. If you think about it, it's in there. So fast forward a few while I was in Okinawa, one I got the best advice from one of the older ladies. I love that the Bible says that the older women should teach the younger women. Again, at a ladies' retreat, this woman, her name was Evelyn, she said, "The best advice I can give you, married girls, is to basically be your husband's hype man, hype woman, right? Like, let him know that he is bringing the goods, if you know what I mean." And that advice has never let me down. Let's just put it that way. But a few years into being married, we were married 5 years before our first child was born. And my husband also grew up in a Christian home. And like I said, it took quite a few years to get the picture that people weren't getting taught or weren't taught what I was taught. And pretty quickly into our marriage, I was wanting more sex than he was wanting. I didn't understand that because even though I was taught that sex inside a marriage was beautiful and a gift, I was picking up clues from people. Like I heard one woman say, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to jump up and down on the casket lid to get that thing to go down." I'm not kidding you. I heard someone say that. And I just got the idea that women had to just give in this area. Women didn't like it. Men had to beg for it. We had to put up with it. And it's just the plight of women everywhere is to be available to their husbands in this manner. And I was like, why is why is everybody saying that? I am not experiencing that at all. And I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like there was something wrong with me. Like,
And I think that is a part of the hidden taboo side of things is that there are a portion of women. I think it is a larger portion than we might realize out there of women who have either what they call a higher drive or more desire or whatever it is, and they're unequally matched in the bedroom, and then they take on, and what I see a lot of women experiencing is guilt and shame because they don't have that perspective. They have this perspective of like, I want more, like let's go, like when is this happening?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when I started talking. You get older, you have kids, you develop deep friendships with other women. And I found out one of my friends, her husband just told her he was not interested in that anymore. And she was, what, 30 when that happened? And maybe even a little bit younger than that. Um, and that was literally the start of when I thought I got to figure this out. I got to help women with this because the more I talked about it, the more I realized people were coming forward going, yeah, either they were in low no sex marriages or low sex marriages, or they wanted to be getting more out of their sexual relationships with their husband and didn't know how to ask for something different, didn't know what they liked. Um, and they just weren't experiencing what a marriage counselor told me was a very much older woman type of thing. We were in marriage counseling because I was so frustrated with this. And we were I remember the guy's name, and I told him, I said, I I want to have sex more with my husband because when it's good, which it wasn't always, but when it was good, it was like an emotional system reset. I mean, a nervous system reset for me. And he said, it's so interesting that you say that. Most women at the age of 28, 29 don't experience that. He said that's something that women come into later in their life. I'm not in contact with him anymore. I don't know what age group he was talking about. But that also put me onto the idea of that I developed along the way that I believe the whole world would be a better place if women were getting fully sexually satisfied by their husbands. I believe I believe this to this day. I believe the whole world would be a better place if women were having mind-blowing orgasms. I think it would make the family unit stronger, it would make the marriage stronger, and it would make their own lives just better. It also would make their husbands' lives better, but
Yeah.
that's a whole different.
I think that that's where That's why one of the reasons why I wanted you on this show is because we focus on the things that so many people focus on this idea of chronic disease. And one of the passions about sort of the collective here and the founders of it is that we focus on things that bring health and vitality to us. And I think so many people don't realize that the high health and vitality of a sex life, an intimate life, contributes to so many factors. And I love what you said about the reset that it brings to individuals and women and their nervous system when you're stressed out, burnout, overcapacity, all that stuff, that reset that can happen inside of those things. But there's such a disconnect from that aspect of things to other pieces of our life. And so I know that you talk about like you had a program that was called the Great Body Reset, and you still do some evidence of that. And you've had this whole journey in doing body reset stuff. So, how did you come to this idea that you needed to transition more time and space and energy into the Great Sex Reset for those couples or individuals that are looking for that as opposed to just being body focused?
I really never wanted to do weight loss coaching. I wanted to start with this, but because I had such a remarkable body transformation, it just seemed like a natural door opening
Mm.
for me to get my feet wet in this industry. Um, I think the heart and soul of the answer to this question is just enough encouragement. I've had enough women look at me and say, "Why are you not talking about this? We're not the only people who need to hear this, not just five of us in this group, right?" Like one of my friends, Erica, said, "Honey, there's people out there suffering because you're shutting your mouth."
Yeah. It is, and I think it's such a we focus on the things we let's say this, we gravitate towards the things where we see evidence of success. And it's easy to gravitate towards somebody who's had evidence of success um in their body perspective, right? With the body transformation that you went through. But ultimately always behind that was the conversations that you brought to the table about like how juicy is your life,
Yeah.
you know? And in a lot of ways, I don't just mean in one way. But the reality is that part of body transformation also comes health transformation, mindset transformation comes from having those safe spaces where we can have that intimate expression in our lives in our marriage. And if that is suffering, that has a lasting impact and can sustain a trauma where people don't realize that prevents them from living having that vitality in other areas.
Absolutely. And there's no denying that my topic is sex. It involves your body, right? So many women are, I'm going to be 56 later on this month, and the jury is still out yet as to whether or not I've gone through menopause. But women younger than me have already gone through menopause. So if you're talking about having a sexual relationship with your spouse, you just can't sever that topic from what you feel like in your body, right?
Yeah.
And and I know women as young as 28 who are suffering with just this disconnect in their sexual relationship with their spouse. But those women are okay. So is this because of I'm in childbearing years? Is this because I have a 1 year old baby? Is this because it all fits in? And so the longer I stay on this health journey, the
Mhm.
closer I get to the menopause day. Suffice it to say, I have an expanding repertoire of knowledge to share with people because I'm just sharing it as it's happening to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of what's happening to me is we're empty nesters, which it's really fun. We're having a lot of fun. We're just having a lot of
Call
fun.
before you come over. Let's just say
That's
that.
right. Don't be
Call
knocking on my front door.
I think that there is so much value in what you bring. Was there, you sort of mentioned this, but I want to highlight this before we go to break. Is there one moment, conversation, or pivotal thing that you're like, okay, this is the line in the sand. I've got to create this program. People are really starving for it. it may not be a one, but is there, when did you decide?
I have close friends who are dealing with this.
Mm.
And as much as I want to go on all my new social media accounts and block all my close friends, because this topic is so touchy and awkward and cringy for some people,
Mhm.
I I love those women.
Yeah.
And I love their husbands, and I just want them to be having as good a time as I'm having right now. I One of the things that I teach behind closed doors is that foreplay doesn't start at 9:47 p.m. It doesn't even start when you wake up in the morning. Foreplay starts the last time, and I'm speaking to husbands now. Foreplay starts the last time you gave her a rockin' orgasm. Now,
And we're
that,
going to stop right there
um,
because that is a perfect spot to leave our listeners ready to hear more when we come back from this commercial break.
okay.
We left you all hanging with such a juicy tagline there. I know some of you are like, wait, what? Please tell me more. So, explain that concept of foreplay doesn't start, the night before. I know they say some women are like crock pots, like get up and put the food on in the morning, turn the crock pot on so dinner's ready that night. We're not starting at breakfast. Like we're starting when we stopped, essentially. Tell me more about that concept and how that applies to your audience.
It's really, don't tell anybody. This is the secret. It's a way to talk about the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system in a way that will actually relate to a husband that matters to them. Men are hearing all these videos on TikTok and wherever. We don't want to make a list. It's literally a song. We don't want to make a list. We don't want to have the mental load of everything that needs to be done here. I don't know what the standard is in your wife's house for her to feel relaxed and receptive to your attention. Apparently, my husband knows what it is in my house. We changed our bed sheets on Friday, but the air conditioner is broken, so we're not using the dryer. So it took a couple days. We pulled the sheets off on Sunday morning, and I walked in one time in the afternoon, and he had completely made the bed all pretty. I was like, "Look at this," you know. So it's. I said it to one of my friends who they haven't had no sex, but they're in their 60s and things are different. And she said, "I told my husband that thing that you said about foreplay starts at the end, and I don't know what he did, but oh my God, it was so good." So it's really just a way to get men on board with, hey, are you a grown up? Do you live in this house? Do you want to have playtime? Because if you want me to be a willing participant in playtime, let's talk about what's happening in the rest of my body and my brain
Mm.
to facilitate playtime.
Yeah.
Well, but it really, it,
I
I have
love it.
receipts.
So, men listening to this, if you take one thing away,
Yeah.
remember this is a mindset shift. This is a way you integrate a new pattern into your lifestyle instead of thinking like, okay, it's Thursday night, I got to turn the crock pot on Thursday morning. Think like it's Wednesday at 9 p.m. and we just had this amazing experience. How am I preparing for Thursday at 9 p.m. or whatever your pattern or rhythm
Right.
is that sustainability. We just and really honestly from a men's hormonal perspective, that speaks to that. Men run on a 24-hour cyclical rhythm. They're able to do those patterns over and over and over. You wash, rinse, repeat, and you have a whole new flow in your household of fresh laundry and playtime, whatever that means for you. But it is resetting your mindset about it instead of thinking of like, oh, if I want clean sheets at 9 o'clock, I got to start the laundry at such and such a time to get there. This is just continual. I know that you address a lot of myths when it comes to intimacy and sex and things like that. What do you think is one of the biggest one that women believe about intimacy and longer marriages that have been around 10, 15, 20, 30 years?
Well, I covered this in my freebie. There's so many myths. The very top one is the very first one is that intimacy is a euphemism for sex. And we use it that way in our field to get around the algorithm, not showing our videos, right? But intimacy is a measure of closeness that you have with somebody that is completely outside of the idea of sex. Now, sex lives on that continuum, right?
Hmm.
You can have sexual intimacy, but intimacy is a state of being. It's not an act that you do. Um, and I think that the part of the problem that highlights is we don't have a vocabulary for how to talk about this with our spouses.
Yeah.
We, especially if you grew up, in not exactly the way I did, but if you grew up and you weren't taught anything about sex, because who's supposed to do that? Who's
Yeah.
supposed to do that? Um, y- uh, I didn't have a word for my genitals.
Yeah.
My sister is only 2 years younger than me, and we grew up calling it our thing.
Yeah.
Now, I told you earlier that I was told all these things, but we don't have a vocabulary. So that's one of the things that we do in my program is teach women to get over the shame of not knowing about their bodies and developing a vocabulary for themselves and their husbands.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful. I attended a conference um for married couples and there was a lot of married couples in the room. It was like 12, 1,500 married couples in the room and I remember this lady who was about to turn 50 years old and didn't understand that she had multiple different
Openings.
openings
Yeah.
in that private area of her body and I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean you don't understand like I don't understand why you don't understand." But I think that this concept of who is going to talk about it and what are they going to say? There's a lot of programming information out there from TV and movies on what is real, and that is such a facade that then there's behind closed doors where people are like, "Well, I'm not having that, so clearly I'm broken." And I can't talk about this because if I talk about it, then I'm looked at as this really inappropriate, dirty person.
Yeah.
And we talk about like academic intelligence so much. My field of vision and concept is a lot about emotional intelligence language. But this is a component of relationship intelligence that we definitely aren't teaching, other than the concept of like the birds and the bees, kind of, sort of like. And I actually saw a reel about that last week. It's like when the boys in eighth grade attend the viewing of the video at schools, and the guy was like, "We all hope that there's this one nerd kid who will ask the really stupid question because the bottom line is we all want the answer to the stupid question too. We're just not going to ask the question out loud." And so
Yes.
now it's not just eighth grade boys not getting the right education or asking the questions because everybody's going to be like, "Why don't you know that?" because most of them actually don't know that. But then there's adult men out there who actually don't know it either, and they're watching these really bad reels on TikTok or movies or content on devices that is so out of bounds from realism. But I want to go back to something that you highlighted about women and this concept of sympathetic and parasympathetic, their nervous system regulation. And what I know to be true from women who have experienced a lot of trauma is they want to hide themselves. They want to shrink away from being seen, because being seen is a risk that
Mm.
they take to activate all of those trauma responses, or getting in trouble, or experiencing whatever they navigated with a trauma perspective.
Right.
So I know your program, and you talk a little bit about this idea of being invisible to being seen. So what does invisible feel like for the women that you work with? What is that in the context of your program? How, if you were to tell me this, and a woman sitting here, what revelation is she going to have? Like, I am completely invisible and I didn't even recognize it.
Well, in the context of my program, feeling invisible it can look like a very long list of things, but at the top is she doesn't know what she likes in the bedroom.
Mm.
So she can't talk about what she likes in the bedroom, and he doesn't know what she likes in the bedroom. And they, at some point, most of who I work with, at some point, because of those three things, they just didn't ever talk about it. And
Mm.
now she finds herself wanting to be sexually satisfied, wanting to participate more. And she doesn't know if they stopped having sex because of her, or if they stopped having sex because of him, or if it was just the communications breakdown. And she just doesn't have the liberty to share in this manner. And because of the whole, I'm going to have to jump up and down on his casket lid to get that thing to go down, because of that mindset everywhere, she thinks she's the only one.
Mm.
She thinks that she's the only one. She thinks all of her girlfriends are just putting up with it, and she's thinking, "I'm not getting enough, or don't like what I'm getting. I must be broken. Nobody's like me. There's no one I can talk to about this. I certainly can't talk to him about this." Um, and when I go to church, the pastor literally stands up there and says, "Women just need to serve their husbands in this manner." And you're like, "That's that's not what I'm dealing with." They feel like they're the only one. They feel like they're the
Yeah.
only one, and nobody can relate to them.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's such a taboo subject and there's people not having it, it exacerbates that. Like, where do I even go for that? So I want to kind of skip around a little bit in some of the things said we would talk about. So how do you actually work with women then in studying that framework, or do you work with the men? Like, what is your approach in then even opening a door to that conversation, or prepare them, or what does that look like to you? Like, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, who do I talk to? How do I talk to? I can't talk to my spouse. I definitely can't talk to my friends because all of that stigma. So what does that look like from a conversation perspective for somebody listening? She's like, you have just like completely revealed me. Now what?
The first thing that I do when clients first come to me is assure them, you are not alone. This is not, you're not a unicorn. You're not broken. You're not dirty. You're not alone. That's the first step. Then we do quite a lot of somatic work. We have very frank discussions about, you know, how do you feel in your body? Where do you feel this emotion in your body? Do you do you know the words for the different openings down there, right? Like, it's a lot of work on herself
Mm.
first. And then we go into, okay, so you want to have a conversation with him. What does that look like? How do I facilitate that? Because when I've brought it up in the past, I got shut down, right? Well,
Mm.
there's a way to ask, and there's a lot of ways not to ask.
Yeah.
Basically, you go back to Stephen Covey's. rules, our habits. Seek first to understand and then to be understood, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's the assuring them that they're not broken, and then there's the okay, so let's learn our own bodies. God gave it to you. The only place on a human's body that is designed strictly for pleasure is the clitoris. Men get a lot of pleasure on their penises, but it does other stuff too. The clitoris, not so much.
Yeah.
So this indicates that that's there for a reason. There's no shame in it. It's part of us.
Hmm.
Let's just find out what's going on, and then we learn how to have the conversation. And there is a bridge segment to go from working with me if you're a woman, um, and having conversations with your husband. And then, really, honestly, I wanted to start this program strictly for men because I love men, but sometimes they dumb. I was talking to my husband about this the other day. He said, we're just uneducated.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't trade my man for anything, but nobody's teaching them either.
Yeah.
So there's a bridge course, and I teach you how to get the buy-in.
I think that's really powerful. And, knowing what I know about you, I know that you have a lot of context around personality styles and communication factors and really understanding how to not just, yes, there is a framework. And I think that frameworks are always really important. But the thing I love about you, Heather, and what I've seen evidence of in just our conversations, personally and professionally, that I want the audience to understand is she's not just out here winging it, folks. Like, she's had a lot of investment into understanding different individuals and how they communicate, what communication looks like, how to recognize when the response you're getting isn't working, even understanding the impact of trauma in communication and how that plays a role. We've talked even in behind closed doors in this relationship of conversation, also about neurodivergence and how that plays a role in those communication factors. So I think that's really important for the audience to understand is their communication, especially about intimate topics, is so important to work with somebody who's not just telling you say this, say this, say this, say this. That it's really important to tap into those people who have skill sets beyond just a formula of the right words to say. This is not a script package.
Right.
This is a framework package. But when you work with someone like Heather, who's actually working to reset this whole cycle, she's not going to just push you in the bedroom and say, by the way, you need to go through this script tonight to get these results. It's not like that. And I think she's highlighted some really key things is it's work first on yourself and recognizing your own patterns and who you are, and things like that. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but before we go to break, tell me, when you think about women and their sense of identity, why do you think that is so connected to whether or not they're actually having intimacy or whether or not their husband desires them?
Conditioning, right? So we're designed to believe, or we're taught to believe, that our value or our worth is defined by his desire of us. So if those two things are connected, which we work a lot on separating those two. So if you're not having a good time behind closed doors, what does that mean to your worth?
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that we do based on, okay, that's separate, and you've got to disconnect somewhere there. Um, but and some of us have that assumption and don't even realize that we're working that's our mindset. Well, he doesn't want me anymore, so I guess I'm just put out to pasture. That, who does that
Yeah.
help?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. So good. All right. Well, we are going to go to our next commercial break. And when we come back, we'll look forward to hearing more about Heather's program and what that entails for you. So we left up talking about this conversation shifting from a woman's body in and really being able to have conversations. Walk us through sort of this. We started the conversation talking about your core framework and program called the Great Sex Reset. Walk us through what actually sort of happens beyond, okay, they've had this conversation. What other things are you really looking as an outcome for them? Why would they want to participate in something like this beyond just hey, yes, I need to fix the sex problem? Like walk us through a little bit more of the program and your kind of concept behind it.
So when she comes to me, she's feeling stuck, invisible, um, and as we go through the steps, and not everybody's ready. It's kind of like, grief has all these stages, but they're not linear.
Hmm.
This is also not linear,
Yeah.
because we're dealing with decades of misinformation or no information, and just getting by and dealing with it, to working on identity, to working on body. That's why the Great Body Reset is not completely closed. Some women are just like, I just don't feel good. Why don't you feel good? Let's find out why you don't feel good, right? I'm not a practitioner, I'm a coach, but I got a lot of information and I've learned a lot and I've experienced a lot. So we work on the identity piece, we work on the health piece, we work on the okay, now what piece, we work on the communication, and little by little, she's once she's had the conversation, they figure out, is it a her thing, is it a him thing, is it a health thing, is it a mind thing, what is it? And they move through that piece, and to where now she's got rituals, daily rituals, for how to stay connected to this part of her body and spirit, how to stay connected to him, how to get back to the place where they're connecting again if they start to fall off. Life gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the very idea of doing this kind of work with a new baby, I don't even think, like, that's just different. I'm dealing mostly with women who are in their 30s or over. Um, but they just experience true connection to themselves, and that opens a whole new
Yeah.
playing field for their relationship with their husbands. And I gotta tell you, I'm sorry, I'm just having the best sex of my life, and I've been married 33 years and some days. It's just, I want other people to feel good too.
I think that's so powerful. Like what other women do you know that can I'm not saying they're not having it, but I don't have other women in my life that I know would be able to make that statement. I've been married 33 years and I'm having the best sex of my life. I see marriages at 15, 20, 25, 30 years are like, peace out, dude. Like, I'm a different person. You can't meet my needs. We're done. And I do, no, this is no reflection on those relationships where abuse is occurring and is certainly not excusing any of those things. That is a separate conversation. But where this we just grew apart kind of conversation comes into play, or I'm just not who you thought I was, or you're not meeting my needs, because I feel like that has occurred for a lot of women, or they're doing their own identity work for whatever reason, and they've like, oh, this is who I am and this is what I'm meant to do. But I think that this sex component of things, this intimacy, all of those parameters of things are not being discussed in this identity discovery. And it's like, well, fine, you're not meeting my needs, so I'm gonna honor this uncovered version of myself and what that looks like. And so I think it's a very intentional piece that needs to be addressed in the world today with women.
I do feel like I obviously I agree it needs to be addressed. I would like to take just a little sidebar here and say, um, I do have women come to me that their woundedness is just beyond what my program really covers. And I will never discourage someone. In fact, I'll strongly encourage someone to seek professional counseling if they need that. And
Yeah.
the whole framework for helping women, you know, work through that conversation with themselves, because there are women out there in abusive relationships who think that what I have is going to help them, and they don't even realize that what they've been tolerating for decades is just not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So I will not hesitate to refer someone out to getting true therapy. I'm a
Yeah.
coach. I help with mindset. I help with body
Yeah.
transformation. I help with managing menopause. I help with the relationship. I help with a lot of things. But if someone is, if their woundedness is is clearly gonna probably lead to them not being married to that person anymore, I can help them get to that place where they realize they need something more than what a coach can give them.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful that that you're upfront about it. And I know based on conversations we've had in masterminds and other things that they're Heather doesn't mince words. She said that from the beginning. So what you see is what you get. Like she's gonna be honest with you, but the what I want you to understand is the power of that is if you're coming to a sex and relationship coach with the mindset that I need to fix this thing and then our relationship will be fixed, there may be a lot of people for which that statement might be true. And there's going to be a portion of people that are going to come, and Heather's going to reflect back some things by her line of questioning and the way she works with you to help you see and uncover in a very sensitive way, I guess, for lack of a better term at the moment, to help you recognize what would be the next best step. She's not going to continue to invite you to participate in a program or coaching or anything like that, just because yes, this will fix the thing. She is going to be like, look, this is not going to fix the thing. Here's where, and I think from an ethical and moral standpoint, that's really important in today's coaching and in counseling realms. I deal both in both realms. I think that's really important for audience members and listeners to hear. We as coaches have seen this idea of people want healing. They want things to be fixed in their life. They want to feel that ease and capacity, enjoyment, pleasure aspect of things. And when that's missing, they're searching for the way to fix it. But not every coach has the right answer in the right moment. And there, unfortunately, are coaches out there who want to expand beyond the scope of what their expertise is or beyond the level that they really have ability to, not even ability, what they actually ethically can do.
Right.
Because they want people to also experience the same healing and enjoyment and pleasure. Like you said, I want people to do this. But what I do know to be true is you, again, do not mince words and you protect that fact that understanding that somebody's trauma or story, if they're involved in an abusive situation or something like that, you're going to be like, look, here's how we're going to help you navigate to the next path, you know. And I think that's a really powerful thing is knowing that you steward women and men in this scenario very well, and you steward not just the intimate sexual side of a relationship but the heart and humanity of a person and getting to that healing. I do want to touch a little bit before we end today. We have a little bit of time, but I want to touch on some more aspects. So what do you do when it's not about her? Like she's done a lot of this work, she's got the body regulation, she's fully aware of her touch points and what she needs, and like it is his withdrawal kind of has his own storyline going on. Like how, what does that look like?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was hoping we got around to this. Well, first of all, there's many arcs to what brings a woman to my program, right? Like either she doesn't want it and wishes she did, she wants it and doesn't get it, she's having some, but it's not any fun. And at the end of the night or the day when you lay your head down on your pillow, the work that she does has to be done on herself, but she's married to another human.
Yeah.
He might, and I teach them how to delicately talk about it. But at the end of the day, what happens if you come to him and say, hey, this, and this, and I would love to re explore this with you? And he says, well, I don't want to,
Yeah.
right? That's going to happen sometimes. So similarly to her having several arcs for how she comes into my program, he has several arcs to how he comes into my program. And initially, all of my clients have to do the work on themselves.
Mm.
And there is, like I said, there is a point where, okay, now we learn how to have the conversation. And part of why some women have never done this or men have never done this is because they're afraid of what the answer is. Like, I've done all the work and I learned how to have the conversation and I'm being very respectful. And I asked you the big ask and you said no. You have to come up with a game plan for if the answer is no.
Yeah.
Are you still willing to stay married to this person? Are you in it for the 401k? What's your end game plan here?
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be a different answer for every person. I personally never would have stayed married to a man who wouldn't have had sex with me. But I had to have that conversation more than once. Like, hey, this is not working for me. Can we work on it? I mean, I literally was just, I was like, I'm a weirdo. I'm broken. No, I wasn't. I just didn't have the words I needed. And eventually we got there. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a risk. There's a risk with doing this work of, am I willing, what's the bare minimum I'm willing to accept here? Am
Mm.
I willing to stay if the answer is no?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? And we navigate those conversations.
Yeah. Well, clearly, audience, she's been married 33 years and has the best sex of her life, so she's a great conversationalist, if you didn't get that. The conversation strategies, the adjustments, all the things worked. We've talked a lot about this idea of women. Is there a program specifically designed for men? Are you building something for men? Like, is there a different approach you take with men from this aspect of things?
So as of right now, I just have two workshops. One is for women. It's called Married and Starving. And the one for men is called Why She's Not Having Sex with You and What You Can Do About It.
Mm.
And so, yes, there is a program that's mostly built out for my women clients, and I'm in the process of building it out for men. Um, I'm my heart is for both, but I just feel like there's just nobody teaching either of these people
Yeah.
um, that they have freedom, they have the liberty to ask for this part of their humanity to be vibrant and fun and satisfying and juicy, like
Yeah.
really fun Sunday afternoons.
Is that what they mean?
Yes.
Taking a
After,
Sunday drive.
uh-huh. So, who do you know that takes a nap every Sunday?
Well, yeah. Well, I, we're getting closer to the end of our time together. If you had final messages that you wanted women listening today I feel like for the audience that listens, this might have stirred up some things and left them unsettled and maybe a lot of questions, in their mind, some unsettlement in their body as they end today and they think about all these things. What is the message that you want them to know? What is the thing you want them to take away from all of this?
Number one, if you're a woman and you're in a low sex or no sex or just unsatisfying sex marriage, number one, you are not alone. You're not broken. You're not bad. You're just living in a product of what you weren't taught. Um, and there is something you can do about it. You you deserve to have the knowledge and power to
Mhm.
change this part of your life and make it fulfilling. Um, if you're a man and you're living in a low sex or no sex or unsatisfying sex, you can also change this. And then there's so much bad information out there, but it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy uh, to walk down this path. I say it's simple. That's probably not true, but there is a solution, and it's called the Great Sex Reset. For women, it starts with Married and Starving, and for men, it starts with Why She's Not Having Sex with You. They're
Mhm.
90-minute workshops. Um, and after the workshop, you'll be invited to participate in my bigger program. And actually, it's open for founding members right now. You're going to get it for really cheap if you get in now because you're going to help me build it because I want to give solutions for what people are actually asking for instead of what I think they need.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, it's still being built out. So the easiest way to get on board with getting help for this is to just email me.
Yeah.
Um,
What, tell the audience from your perspective, you married 33 years, you have the best sex of your life. What do you believe has been this biggest shift for you? Like what is the hope that they can leave with? Like I participate in this program. What is the hope I'm leaving with that I have the possibility for?
I actually like my husband, and he likes me. Um, a lot of years I didn't think he did.
Mm.
Um, so we're not just marching along waiting to die, right? We actually look forward to getting back together at the end of the day when he's been gone or I've been gone. Um, we're just, you can have so much fun with your spouse.
Yeah.
And only part of it is the juicy part that happens behind your closed bedroom door. Or I don't care if you're an empty nester, close the blinds.
Yeah.
Couch. But no, I did not know he liked me. I did not know I liked him. I don't know how long that went on, but we sure like each other now.
And if you want to like each other now and explore more about the Great Sex Reset, what is the best way that they can get a hold of you and contact you?
My email is hello@marriedandstarving.com. Spelled out.
Pretty easy to get in contact with Heather. If
Mhm.
today's episode spoke to you, it's time to not just watch or listen, it's time to take action. You can also book a free consult with any one of our expert coaches that we have at thechronichealthcollective.com for personalized support. Subscribe to our monthly magazine for your powerful tips from our 10 top coaches and elevate your health, mindset, and relationships. You can join us live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time or catch past episodes anytime on E360 TV or on youtube.com at Chronic Health Collective. It's time for you to enjoy your life going forward. Thank you, Heather, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.